Well, yeah, I mean, it's not healing though.
We talk about the observatory being a very distinctive building, and of course this base is round, but one of the important features of the base is this pier right here, which is seismically isolated from the building, and the telescope sits on top of it. And of course this is for vibration isolation so that the image in the telescope doesn't shake. Back here in the back we have what's called a transit room. And this instrument is called a star transit. It's built by Gertner Scientific in Skokie, Illinois. Amazingly enough, the company's still in business. And its function is to measure the transit of a star as it passes across the meridian. It looks on a meridian angle only. It can't look at stars that are not on the meridian. And the idea that a star would cross this line at a particular time, as signified by the American Ephemeris and Nautical Almanac, allows you to very accurately locate yourself on the face of the earth, as well as verify the standard time. And at one time this was used with the railroads in the late 1800s to set the timetables for trains. Mr. Galloway ran the observatory for years, and that's where I came along in the 60s and developed an interest in astronomy and utilized the observatory at that time. Built some cameras to go with it, and actually earned a living for a while in the astronomy business, which is hard to do in Mississippi. But that's my background, and then later on I took over the adjunct teaching position for astronomy for several years, and enjoyed it very, very much as teaching, as much as a hobby, and trying to pass this knowledge on to other people.
I think we need some oil.
This is the observatory dome. It's made of wood with a metal sheathing. It's about 14 feet in diameter. And of course, this is the telescope that is well covered. Oh, of course, this was just shortly after Millsaps was found. And I don't know which buildings there were on the campus, but this was one of the first buildings on the Millsaps campus. And in my mind, I can see this observatory was really out in the pasture. This is one of the highest points in the Jackson area, but it was given as a gift by Mr. Robert James in memory of his brother and father. And he was a planter from Yazoo City, Mississippi, and he died not long after his gift of this observatory. Millsaps Observatory was the second one in the state, besides the Ole Miss. Ole Miss still has its observatory, and it's being maintained like this one is. What you call the telescope right here. So if you'll come around, you can see the glass, and that's a 6-inch diameter, 2 pieces of glass, a flint and a crown for achromatic correction. So the idea is that if I wanted to look at an object, I would take the telescope swing it around, you can see it's very easily moved. And then I'd be able to look through the eyepiece and see the object, which very often is the eagle on top of the Capitol building. Other than that, it was used by the chemistry professor, the mathematics professor that were there at that time. As the years went by, various people, Dr. Harrell of Sullivan and Harrell, took photographs with glass plates, coated glass plates, and the physics department used to still have those. I don't know if they do anymore. And then, so Dr. Harrell, and then the physics department was the custodian of the observatory, and so therefore whoever was the physics professor would offer the astronomy class and make this available to the students as well as the public. This is the Warner and Swayze 6-inch refractor, and that's 6 inches is the diameter of the objective lens, which is on the far end. It's a 90-inch focal length piece of glass, so the focus comes back here, and then you look at it with the eyepiece. You're able to focus on the object right here. It's about an F-15 optical system, so it's pretty slow. The telescope is driven by a clock mechanism that drives a weight and moves the entire telescope. The telescope is very delicately balanced so that the weights on the Young's governor, which is this mechanism up here, and that drives up through a shaft and drives the mechanism, which allows the telescope then to track the star as the Earth rotates. This is for turning the lights on, and the setting circles right here, where you can see the verniers for setting what's called the right ascension and declination, which would be the declination north-south, and right ascension is the east-west position of a star. And there are tables with all that information in it, so you can use the tables to locate a star.
So, you know, I have been in contact with Ben for several years now. We had a physics professor that was working with the observatory, and when he left Millsaps, it fell to me as Dean of Sciences. And so about that time is when COVID hit, and so you see how enclosed this space is, so getting people up here, you know, to see the scope during COVID was really not an issue.
This reconstruction of the observatory is the second one to occur. We did one in the 80s, in the late 80s. The observatory was run down and needed some structural work, and we worked on it in the 80s. And then this latest one was a complete historical restoration. No improvements were made. We just made sure that what was here was protected and could stand the elements. So that's kind of where we are now. The observatory is perfectly usable for anyone that's interested. It can be made to operate and enjoyed, which we hope the Millsaps community will do.
So my primary objective has been learning what I can from Ben. I am trying to create a user's manual for the telescope. I mean, you've seen, it's not really complex. If you're mechanically minded, you could figure out what these things do, but I want to make sure that when I'm gone and when Ben's not around, that someone can take over and work with the observatory. So I have some people in mind that are interested, and so I'm hoping that we can turn it over and hopefully this spring start opening it up and get people back.
And people need to appreciate that. One many hundreds of years ago that the sky up here is the thing that we had to marvel at. The thing that would solve its problems and a lot of problems is seeing it being used. And that's when it would really do its best. Astronomical work is more easily done with the portable telescopes that the physics department has. And of course, they're much larger aperture, much more powerful than this telescope. This telescope is more, I see, as an artifact of history to be learned about and appreciated. I think that's the important thing.